strange and mysterious. And I guess that's what attracts me to India.
And the clothes.
And the coat?
Clothes, yeah.
Clothes, absolutely. I've got some samples here. I just love the textiles. I just love the country. I don't know why. I know some people absolutely hate it, would never go there, and I can't seem to stay away. So I said on the sign that I was going to start with Hyderabad. And then I was looking through the different places that I'd been, and Hyderabad somehow didn't interest me. But if anybody, Elio, are you particularly interested in Hyderabad? We talked about it at dinner.
No.
No, okay. It's interesting, but I wanted to talk about the two religious cities, for example. The center of Buddhism, Dharmasala and McLeod-Ganj, and then the center of the Sikh religion in Amritsar. So does that sound like interesting? It is, to me, very interesting.
Anything you do is interesting.
Well, that's very, very kind of you. Now, if I can stop the sitar playing, we're all set. I don't know if I can, and I don't know why I can't, but Namaste is the greeting that people say to each other in India and other places. Buddhists say to each other. And I meant to look it up exactly what it is, but my understanding of it is, may the God within you speak to the God within me. The idea of Buddhism, which is, many people feel it's not a religion but more a philosophy, is that anybody can achieve Buddhahood by doing good works and leading a good life. So Buddha is not a deity, it's something that's inherent in everybody. So I think that's what Namaste means. And not just Buddhists, but practitioners of Indian religions too say Namaste to each other. My daughter belongs to some exotic Hindu religion or something, and they all say Namaste to each other. It's a lovely thing to say to people. Good job. Okay, the sitar has left the room. No. It has snuck back in, but it's very quiet. And it's a very good Indian instrument, so, but it is getting noisy again. Okay. Didn't work. This is a map of a lot of places that I've been. We'll just ignore this. And this is a map of the 28 states and the 9 territories. Won't go into that tonight either. But I did start one time all the way at the top and one time went all the way to the bottom. Not the same trip. Okay, so there's about 1.4 billion people living in India. And it's the second most populous country, and I guess China is now the most populous country. But it's a contest between them. In 1947, they got their independence from Great Britain, and that was a big mess. If you remember the partition of Pakistan, and then many Muslims moved to Pakistan and many Hindus moved back to India. And ironically, the same problem is going on now between the Muslims and the Hindus. Really bad problem.
47 was
47 was independence, yeah. So this is a breakdown of religions, as well as you can take a census in India. So about 80% of people are Hindu, and about 14% are Muslim. But that's creating a big problem, because even 14% of a billion people is millions of people. And for some reason, Modi, the Prime Minister, ran as a Hindu nationalist, and that's what he's doing now, is making Hinduism the absolute national religion and making it very difficult, especially for Muslims. But then all these other religions are there, and the United States is concerned because he's also, to some extent, cracking down on Christianity. as is China, actually, too. So only less than 2% of people are Sikhs, and we'll talk about that religion soon. And again, less than 1% are Buddhists, and we'll talk about that. But the nice part I find about India, aside from the beautiful textiles, is the tremendous diversity. And what was apparent to me up until recently is the freedom people have to practice all kinds of unusual religions, unfettered. And the fact that India took all these Buddhists in when they were being persecuted in Tibet and let them practice their religion freely, I think is amazing. It's an amazing country, I think. I think it's impossible to govern a country like this, but somebody seems to want to do it. So it's very small, all these other religions, compared to Hinduism. Some of the problems they're having now are this religious strife that's going on. Even people who eat beef are being persecuted because cows are sacred suddenly. I mean, they've always been sacred, but it's never been a crime to eat beef. But suddenly it's a problem. Gender inequality, I think you know too that there have been a lot of rapes and murders recently. Not recently, but all through recent history, which is really horrible. Air pollution is a big problem. Not the last time, one of the times I was there, I got terrible bronchitis, could hardly breathe in some of the cities I was in. Some children are very malnourished, and Hindu nationalism has led to violence in the country. And I won't make a list of the things that I love about it, but I do love the country, and I love the diversity, love the music, love the textiles, and a lot of other things, so it certainly has its good points. Here are the founders of modern day India. Gandhi, as you know, preached nonviolent methods and did achieve independence. And Jawaharlal Nehru was the first prime minister of India. This is the flag, and the Ashoka chakras in the middle, symbolizing the wheel of the law of Dharma. So, Dharma, Buddha, I can't remember. I was a Buddhist for a while, and I've forgotten what I knew. So it's the 7th largest country by area and the 2nd most populous country by people, and the most populous democratic country. We hope it stays as a democratic country. The largest city is Mumbai, and the capital is New Delhi. Official languages, there's really no national language, but officially people speak Hindi and English, although you'll see in the south different, I forget how many languages there are in India, lots of them. And each state sometimes has a different language. The genetic diversity is second only to Africa. It's a 9,000-year-old civilization which has been occupied by all kinds of people, including the Muslims, who were there a long time ago. And the Buddhists started there. So I'm going to start with this place called Dharamsala, which is a region in one of the states. And as part of Dharamsala is McLeodganj. And these two places are the home of the Tibetan government in exile, and it's where HHDL, which is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, hangs out. When I got there, it just happened, I can't even remember when that was, but it just happened that it was in the middle of the Dalai Lama's teachings. He has teachings that last for a week. And I came in the middle of it, which was very interesting. So there were people there from all over the world speaking all kinds of languages. You got a little radio that would translate into whatever language you spoke as he was speaking. And it was pretty esoteric, really fine points of Buddhism that I had studied Buddhism, but I really didn't understand. But still, it was very wise, you could tell that much. This is McLeodganj, is the city in Dharamsala where the Dalai Lama lives. And it's quite hilly, as you can see. Sometimes you can see snow on the mountains. It's in Himachal Pradesh state, and it's almost 5,000 feet high, which coming from Denver is not that high, but it is quite mountainous. You see the Tibetan flag everywhere there because it is the Tibetan government in exile. And when the Chinese took over Tibet, many people, including the Dalai Lama as a young boy, fled to India, and India accepted all these people. It's very interesting because the second generation of people that were born there are really Indian, and they have a mixed allegiance between Tibet and India. And there's a big effort to keep the Tibetan culture going, but it's very hard when you have another generation, like any first generation, second generation here, hard to keep the first generation still tied in with the mother country. The Norbalinka Institute perpetuates the Tibetan culture, does a lot of things to make it remembered, including running this hotel. And I have to tell you, this is my favorite hotel in the world. For one thing, the view, you can sit there in the patio and see all these mountains and everything that's going on. The food is delicious. But the best part is the rooms are all decorated with Tibetan art, as you'll see.
Are they clean?
So this is a painting that's on the wall, and if you've been in Tibet, you know this is the Patola Palace in Lhasa. Here's some more. There's a yak. Yak is very big in Tibet. Yak butter, yak milk. Another. Archery is also very big. I think these paintings are remarkable, and they really encourage their artists to paint what they remember from Tibet. And a lot of people, still first generation, maintain their costumes and their jewelry, as you'll see later on. This is a corner of a room. I don't think it has much to do with Tibet, but it's a lovely painting. There's me enjoying another corner of the room. And I guess people brought actual furniture like this with them when they came over, or it was made in India, I don't know which, but very elaborate. My room. Actually, I had a couple of rooms. I think they moved me around, which was nice. So this is the patio, and you can have a wonderful view here. You can see it's pretty high. This is a woman I met there. And there's snow-covered mountains, so you can see that.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It's amazing, yeah. It wasn't that cold, but up there in the mountains, like it's going to be here, it's going to be, you're expecting 30 inches of snow in the mountains tomorrow, so you can see that we have it too. Here's where people live. So I met an American woman there. I don't think I have her picture, but we got to be friends, and she lives in one of these apartments. She doesn't now, she went back to her home, but she lived there for many years, and right now she's back in Tibet, just meeting old people that she knew. This is downtown McLeod-Ganj, and it happened to be that there are all these monks from all over the world who came there for the teachings. So it's quite interesting to walk on the streets. These are Tibetans. There's lady monks too. They have their head shaved, and sometimes it's hard to tell which are the men and which are the women. Here's some Indian people. This is so India, I said. I mean, here's all this modern telephone wiring, which gets new wiring, gets put on old wiring, gets put on more wiring, and in the background is this beautiful old building, and behind that is an even more beautiful building, and meanwhile, all this wiring is happening. It looks dangerous, and it might be. Nothing happened when I was there, but it's a bit of a mess. So here's a man spinning the prayer wheels. And in the prayer wheels are mantras. And on top of the prayer wheels are also mantras. I can't remember what they are, but they essentially are prayers. And it helps your karma in the next life to have done these spinning of the prayer wheels. So karma is the force generated by a person's actions, bad or good, held in Hinduism and Buddhism to perpetuate transmigration, that is, after you're dead, what happens to your soul. And many people believe in reincarnation. And its ethical consequences determine the nature of the person's next existence. So chanting and spinning the prayer wheel is a way of accumulating merit in Buddhism. This is the Norablinka Institute. What I showed you before was my hotel, which they manage. And it's totally dedicated to preservation of Tibetan arts and culture. I give to the something Tibetan something. When the Dalai Lama was here, there was a party for these people like me who love Tibet. These are some of the things that are in the Tibetan Museum. You can see it. The art is very similar to Indian art. They are adjacent countries after all. But it has a bit of a different flavor to it. These are little statues, I think, of the exodus from Tibet. And that's supposed to be the Dalai Lama. This was not actually in the Norablinka Institute. It was in the Buddhist temple that was near where the teachings were. So I guess not all is well when Buddhists meet, and some people steal their shoes, someone else's shoes. I think you get very bad karma from stealing somebody's shoes. So they also maintain this performing arts center, and I went to see a Tibetan show. This is it. It was in 2 acts. So the first act was all this Tibetan costumes and Tibetan music and Tibetan dancing. Oops. But the second act was, we don't have to watch this. The second act was all rock and roll. And it was the second generation of Tibetan kids that had been raised in India, and they were interested in playing rock and roll. So they brought their little band out, and they singing and carrying on, and the audience went crazy over it. They loved it. So that's the kind of culture clash that is not unusual, I think, between second generation people. So somewhere in there is the Dalai Lama giving the teachings. And as I said, the teachings are translated with your little radio into whatever language you wanted to hear. And it was a mob scene. So every morning there was about an hour and a half of teachings. And then after the teachings, the week of the teachings was a week of Tibetan opera, which was amazing. And again, this huge crowd in the same place, no, I think a different place. What was amazing about it was not only the opera, but to see people coming in from all over the country wearing their original Tibetan costumes, as you'll see. It was an amazing sight. I'm so grateful that I just stumbled across it. She was. I don't know where. I mean, I guess these people have their costumes from when they came from Tibet and keep them, especially for this occasion. Dig the earrings here. This was a very sophisticated little girl who really knew her way around. And people brought their lunch. Looked delicious. It does. Most Buddhists are vegetarians. I didn't notice if that was a vegetarian lunch or not. It looked like a hunk of meat there. This is the whole place decorated for the opera. And along came His Highness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness, sorry. With his wonderful big smile. Right next to me.
Is that his wife?
How beautiful these young Tibetan people are.
Oh, really?
Look at his earring. So this is my friend Victoria's apartment, and she designed this series of prayer flags to say Tibet lives, which is not the same motto that everybody else uses, which was Save Tibet. But her feeling was Tibet is alive now. It is saved, and it's very important to know what the culture is now. So that's it for McLeod Ganj and Dharamsala.
Why the name?
McLeod Ganj, I don't know. It's a very unusual name. Doesn't sound Buddhist or Indian or anything.
No.
So when I left, a lot of the monks left too. Well, they've been leaving the whole week. And I took buses all over India. I did then. I don't now because I got this terrible bronchitis because the bus windows are open, which I loved. But you inhale all kinds of large particulates. It's not good for your lungs. So now I'm acting like a rich person driving in a car with a guide. And it's not nearly as much fun. This bus was great fun, I thought. I had to sort of take these pictures surreptitiously. So the monks were up there putting our luggage up there.
Did you go on a tour or just yourself?
They're on the
Were you on
top of the bus.
No, you. Were you on a tour or just?
No, I was just myself. Just myself.
Oh,
No, I went all over India just myself.
oh my word.
Yeah, from the top to the bottom. And then last time I went with my daughter and we had a guide and a driver, which was fun, but that's never, I had never had a guide before, or a driver or anything like that.
So you just took off wherever you wanted to, whatever you wanted to see in the city or what?
Maybe we could save the questions for later because I can't really hear and
Gotcha.
we might have, I mean, it was quite an adventure. I didn't consider it an adventure at the time, but I guess it was. Because now I'm not sure I would do it just because I got old, I think. But it's accessible. I loved being on the bus. It was just wonderful to see everybody get on and off. There was a bride and groom on there. I guess I didn't take their pictures. This little guy was sitting right in front of me. He seemed to want to make friends. I don't know what his story was. He didn't speak English, so don't know. So I was going to the next state. I don't know if it was the next state, but I was going to Punjab, which I had been in already because I had been in the capital in Chandigarh. But now I was going to Amritsar. So Punjab is a big state, and a lot of Sikhs live in Punjab. And there's a Punjab in Pakistan, and it's right on the border with Pakistan. So this is Amritsar, which is essentially the Vatican for the Sikhs, if that makes sense, the headquarters for the Sikhs. Some people call it Sikhs. It sounds bad to me, so I call it Sikhs. I guess nobody here has been to the Golden Temple, and I have to say it was one of the highlights of my life to be there. I just loved being there. And I do compare it later with the Taj Mahal, and to me, not even a comparison, because the Taj Mahal is a dead building. This is a live building. It's so wonderful, in my humble opinion.
Is it actually painted with gold?
No, it's not. I don't think it's plated with, maybe it's something gold, I don't know. I don't know. I have to look that up. But that's it. So it's in the middle of this pond or lake or something. And it's the home of the Golden Temple, center of the Sikh religion, which was founded in 1469 by Guru Nanak, and we'll talk about this later, because it was a protest against the caste system and fasting and dietary restrictions. The Sikhs don't have those. Definitely don't have a caste system. So the next town over is Lahore, Pakistan. It was very tempting to go there, but I didn't think I would be able to get in. So Amritsar has about 1 million plus people. The city was founded in 1577 by Ram Das, the original Ram Das, who you may have noted died yesterday. R. Ram Das, who worked with Timothy Leary on LSD, was a classmate of mine at Harvard, actually. But the original Ram Das was the fourth guru of the Sikhs. In 1984, there was a big to-do there because the separatists occupied the Golden Temple, and Indira Gandhi ordered the troops in and killed hundreds of Sikhs. And then later she was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguard. This is a very vague map of where I was and where I'm going, whatever. I've been to Chandigarh and Simla. We'll talk about those sometime because I love to show them to you. So this is Guru Nanak, a statue of him. I was fortunate to find several comic books that one described Buddhism, one described Sikhism, and I learned all about Guru Nanak and the Sikh religion. It's very helpful. So it is a monotheistic religion founded in Punjab in the 15th century by Guru Nanak. The men wear turbans since they are required to not cut their hair. Some American Sikhs don't wear turbans and do cut their hair, but many do wear the turbans, and they're mixed up. Other people think that they're Muslims, which they resent very much because they're definitely not Muslims. So they broke from Hinduism because they reject the caste system. They accept that there were divine messengers, including Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad, in other religions. And I'm not exactly sure who their monotheistic God is, but they are very big on self-defense. So they carry daggers, and they seem very fierce. And part of that is because they've been persecuted a lot, and they don't want that to happen again. They want to be totally independent and self-reliant. Here they have a Rotary Club in Amritsar. And they really encourage these vaccines, chickenpox, hepatitis, and the Rotarians help with their medical system too. This is what the streets look like. Women on motorcycles, common. Families on motorcycles. Police care for you. And then oxen in the street. I happen to love all this stuff, but you could say it's very primitive, which it is. And every kind of vehicle you can imagine. Out of this must have been, 1,000 people in the Golden Temple grounds when I was there. I was there 2 days, went back the second day. But I think the first day I saw another Westerner, a woman wearing regular Western clothes, and she was from Scotland, and we got to know each other. And what I love to do is sort of hang out in coffee shops or something and watch the world go by in these places. And this is what we could see from the coffee shop. Amazing, really. This is my hotel, which I forget how I found, really quite random, but it was okay. There's a little patio there. And this is the memorial to those people that were killed by the guards because they were resisting something that was happening there. I can't remember. This was 1909. But it's a very sacred place. And it's a memorial to these people. 2,000 people were killed, Sikhs and Muslims, shot by British bullets, April 15th, 1919. This is the memorial. So even though the Sikhs resent the Hindu population, the Indian population, because of this early thing, and they are wary of their own rights and infringing upon them, everybody gets along until recently. I think the Sikhs are not involved, but definitely the Muslims, but that's an old fight that's been going on. So here's entering the Golden Temple, and you see, in contrast, for example, with Saudi Arabia, that the outfits that the women wear are pastels, very cheerful, and I was in that line. You'll see I got a little covering for my head. Here's a bunch of women. They love to pose. Sweet looking, aren't they? This is not the temple itself, but an adjunct to it. And in the pond, people take baths. And men are required to wear their daggers, and so he's got his dagger strapped to his turban.
Is it dangerous?
Dangerous? No, not at all. I'll tell you what was dangerous. But the first time I was in Delhi with my husband, old Delhi, not New Delhi, I was walking down the streets and I noticed how could I not notice, a lot of Sikh men would go past me and pinch me in different places. And I guess they're big on that. But the second time I went, I was with another man, and I didn't get pinched, and I can tell you I was very insulted. I don't know whether I was losing my term. My friend was a big black man, maybe that had something to do with it, but I was insulted. So just compare the Golden Temple to the Taj Mahal. And since you haven't been to either one of them, I'll have to do it for you. The Taj is beautiful. It is a masterpiece of architecture, but it's static. Nothing happens there. People come and go, but they don't swim, they don't eat, they don't do anything. It's not a living monument. It's a monument to, what's his name's wife? I can't remember his name now. And it's not a living temple or anything like that. Although you haven't heard it, there's music playing constantly. You will hear it at the end. Music playing constantly in the Golden Temple. Live music. And it's broadcast throughout. I think it's very interesting music. There's no food at the Taj Mahal. There is free food here at the Golden Temple. Nobody's bathing. And what you see there is mostly tourists from other countries and not Indians. So if you ever have a choice between the Taj and the Golden Temple, I would certainly choose the Golden Temple. My own preference. So there it is. It's alive, it's colorful, there's music, there's food, there's bathing, and very few tourists. I think I picked out the only tourist that was there, the Scottish woman. These turbans make everybody look about a foot higher, taller than they are, and they're pretty big people anyway. I love to go to countries where people wear costumes. It's so boring to see people in Western dress all the time. I just love it. Here's another view of it. You can see how elaborate the top is. So beautiful, I think. So there I am. They gave me a little thing for my head. And I got somebody to take my picture. It's interesting that the Sikh women do cover their heads, like Muslim women. So here's some guys ready to take a bath in the pond or lake or whatever it is. This is a line to get into the Golden Temple. I stood in it. There it is. Very lively there. And you'll have to imagine, you'll hear it later on, music emanating from it all day long. And interesting, on the radio, I don't know how far from the Golden Temple it is, but you turn on the radio, you hear the same music. 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe so. Flower offerings. This is the free kitchen. Serves 30,000 people a day. And there's somebody being served. I think I was being served at the same time. So we had tea and a bean soup, which was very good, and something else. Oh, a naan, Indian bread. Oh, it was a very nice thing, and I think at Sikh temples everywhere they serve food, if I'm not mistaken. Here's some more fierce-looking Sikhs. They weren't fierce, they were very nice.
Oh.
Aren't they adorable? You know, it's very interesting. You go to, I guess, practically any Muslim country, and people have a fit. If you try to take their picture, they cover their face. And it's true, too, in some Indian places, too. When I was in Tibet, I was taking pictures, and people didn't like that. But these people take as many pictures as you want. Okay, so these are the priests, and they're chanting. You'll hear it in a minute, if I can make it work. Very interesting instruments that they have. This is more about Guru Nanak, etc. I think we talked about that already. Oh, here are the 5 Ks that the men anyway, must do. So they don't cut their hair. They wear a small wooden comb under the turban. They wear a steel or iron bracelet. They wear a piece of undergarment. Sounds a lot like Mormons.
Yeah.
And a short dagger, the kirpan. But there's no dogma. You know, I said to a Sikh person there, a priest, I said, what do you believe in? He said, anything you want, they said. But just we don't believe in the caste system. We don't believe in dogma. We don't have priests. And people are not monastic. So they believe in the equality of humankind. How can you argue with that? There's another scene from our coffee house. This is a bike taxi. I think these are daggers, yeah.
Wow. Boy.
What is that on a bike? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on a bike. It's a motorbike, I think. So on the way up to this event the next night, or that night, or whatever, this was some of the scenery we saw, which I'd also seen in South India, near Bangalore. But this is this famous border, 30 kilometers west of Amritsar. And every night they have a ceremony closing the border. And it's a big production. And this is how the Indian soldiers dress.
Oh my goodness.
And then they goose step around. It's like it attracts this kind of crowd every night. Ritualistic nationalism, yeah. So these people are walking back and forth to the border and shouting, I think, anti-Pakistani slogans or pro-Indian or something. I didn't find Hyderabad. Okay, here's Hyderabad. Also spelled without the A. No, also spelled Hyderabad without the E. So it's the capital of this other state, Andhra Pradesh, and it has about 75 million people in the state and about 5.5 million people in Hyderabad. And even though it's Mughal architecture and looks very ancient, it's the seat of the software industry in India. There's other places too, Bangalore, for example, but and there's a place called High Tech City, which you'll see there. Surprisingly, to me anyway, it had a large Muslim population, but the origins of the city are from Islam. So it has two official languages which are not Indian English, Telugu and Urdu. Urdu is the language of Pakistan anyway, but they speak it here. And it was founded by this, in 1591, Muhammad Shah. Shah is a very common Muslim name, Pakistani name. And ironically, I don't know quite how this started, but expansionary activity in the technology and IT, BPM, I forgot what that means, has been going on now for these companies with global capability centers. Hyderabad has seen unprecedented growth in commercial leasing activities owing to the infrastructural push from the government, strong demand, and attractive rentals. The city has been a major location for global investors who are scouting for ready stock with high yield rates. So one of the things it has is answering, what's that called? Where they answer the phone, like I think the Brooklyn welfare system, when you call it, somebody in Hyderabad is answering the phone. This is a good map, by the way, of India, and where's all very interesting places here. Which, if you don't mind, I'm going to show pictures of these places. I just love them, like Pondicherry and Bangalore and Kochi and lots of places here, Chennai. But this is not working. But anyway, in the middle there is Hyderabad, up here actually.
Right-hand side, upper, yeah.
You see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one of the old buildings. Fascinating. That's the Mughal architecture, just amazing. This is a tomb. This is what you see from a high place. I found a beautiful high spot there. It just does not look like the kind of city with all this modern electronic stuff going on. Look at that.
Dress.
Wonderful. I guess one man's wonderful is another man's disgusting. Because India is very binary. People either come away loving it like me or hating it and swearing they'll never go back. But there's a lot of these red buildings around in the south. The Nizams were the people who ruled Hyderabad before the British. And this is a very elaborate home where this Nizam lived. But there's also cows. So this is a very wealthy person who has a lot of cows. Isn't she beautiful? I love this picture. I have no idea who she is.
Beautiful dress.
Yeah. So as you go further south, people are darker skinned. Starting in the Himalayas, where people are very light-skinned, but going down to the South Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu, where people are quite dark. And Tamil Nadu is quite a progressive state in the south. We'll talk about that sometime. This guy, Sudhakar, is made this car museum with the most amazing, strange cars here. And he's been doing this since the age of 14 when he designed these cars. Okay, so this is a car made of a shoe. There's a car in there somewhere on the left. And this one is a car made look like a condom, designed for World AIDS Day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Took 4 months to manufacture this. And they all work. This is probably about 80 cars in there, all very strange. I was surprised to see this. After going to Amritsar, where all the women are wearing colorful outfits, to see a woman in black, just like in Saudi Arabia, with her face covered, I was shocked. But I guess that's true in places in India, that there are Orthodox Muslim people and women who cover like this. And her, isn't she cute? So this is High Tech City, which is right outside of Hyderabad. And for some reason, I don't have the picture, but behind these buildings are workers making more buildings, apartment houses for these people who live there. And the workers are living in tents, very poor, with their donkeys. And it's amazing to see the contrast. You can't exactly walk into these buildings. You can't walk in, period. But look at them. This is amazing. So when you talking to United Airlines and somebody from India is talking to you, that's probably where they are. The Tata buildings. This is such a contrast to everything else. Okay, I should stop, I think. So we got 3 cities, and now I'm happy to answer any questions.